Hello everyone and welcome to a new video. MC-Mura here, and in today's video we are going back to how do you fight against Bison. I had actually made a video about, I think it was season 3, but it was a Chun-Li versus Bison guide, and ever since then I felt like I've been wanting to go back and do more versus Bison, and that's because that video was mainly targeted toward Chun players, and there is some stuff that was added that was new. I wanted to keep it more updated, I wanted to keep it more inclusive, so it's like general tips for everyone. So here we are back against Bison, and Bison is one of the characters that a lot of people struggle against because he's a knowledge check character. And what I mean by that is, let's say we have a Bison player fighting against a Ryu player. Typically speaking, the Ryu have to know a lot more about Bison to win than the Bison had to know about the Ryu. That's just how the character works because he is a relatively low risk, high reward character. But anyways, let's get now about Bison. What is the general game plan? What do you want to do against Bison? The idea behind Bison and the entire matchup revolves around wanting to knock him down. Generally, you want to find some way to make the Bison player overextend, then you knock him down, and then you go from there and pressure him because his defensive options are, let's say, average to below average, right? Because he doesn't have a true reversal and all of that. So first I wanted to cover the full screen approach when we are fighting versus Bison and it is from this distance. I will tell you. I will start to show you some of his options and how we're supposed to deal with them one by one. Because everything Bison does, honestly, most of everything he does have an answer, but it's about if you know how to deal with it or not. So let's start with the first, and it is his new V skill. His new V skill is plus on block. So if we block this, he will come across up. He will be +1. He will be in throw range. It can be problematic. So the best way to deal with his V skill is to just hit him out of it. Don't try to block this, don't try to neutral jump it or jump forward. These approaches are all kinda meh. Honestly, just as soon as you see him disappear, just hit him out of it. This is something that's very easy and every single character can do this. See, I'm even hitting him with a crush counter normal. If your character have a dodge or a parry mechanic, you can also do it versus that. So here we're doing Laura's V-Trigger 2 dodge thing, and we are hitting him out of it. Any dodge, any parry, any counter, any reflect, all of that will work versus this. So regarding the raw V skill, just hit him out of it. Now, what happens when he does a V skill and it is followed by, or a blast and it's followed by the V skill? This can be tricky because if we try to hit him here, the blast will hit us, right? So the way to deal with this is to throw him out of it. You can also throw him regularly, you can do a command grab, you can do many things. As soon as you see that combo, that ball and then teleport, this is basically him wasting an EX bar. You can always throw that. And again, this is something that all Z characters can do. So regular V skill, you just hit him out of it. V skill with the blast, you throw him out of it. And now for his third options, and that is if he just does a blast and then walk forward or jump. So you will see something, this is something that's gonna happen a lot, and this is a little bit of a unique interaction because he's forcing a situation. What I like to do honestly is just to walk forward, because the closer range, the closer you are to him when you block it, the less plus he is. Because if I block it standing there, now I'm under his pressure. But if I walk forward, he would be less plus. Maybe even get a punish actually if I block it from close enough. Yeah. So as you can see, so when he does the EX blast, this is basically a situation where you kinda have to take an action and you will decide how safe or unsafe you want to play. Because you can do something like this with Laura, you can maybe try to jump, but if you try to jump, he might do his jumping target combo thing. So if you want to be as safe as possible, walk forward to it and then block, right? So that was his third way he could approach from full screen. And of course, for the popular one now, and what gives people most of the trouble, this bad boy, the Devil Reverse. Never reverse is tricky because he can change the timing. So what I like to do is, here is something I like to do. It's kind of risky, but you either wait. I either wait for him to drop down and then do my normal, or you do your anti-air. I mean, or you can backdash. And if you backdash here, he can't like go to the other side. So what I would recommend is just wait it out, because of course he can mix this up with the headstomp, and I'm just waiting it out. If I see him do the devil reverse, I go for my anti-air. I know it's kind of tricky to just tell you to wait, but the best way to deal with it is honestly just to wait it out. Or you can do backdash, but backdash is risky because that will hit you, as you can see, or maybe even block. But wait it out and wait for him to drop. It is just a thing where you will have to have a little bit of a, I want to say of a read, because the thing with the EX headstomp is a lot of Bison players will do it and then do the right left thing to try to phase you, but he can't ever hit you cross up. Like there is no threat of being hit cross up here. He will always have to hit you from the front. So the headstomp from full screen is kind of a waste. He's trying to do it to fake out an EX devil reverse. So honestly, just wait it out, and as soon as you see him flip in the air, do your anti-air. So just wait it out, he flips, do your anti-air. And I think by this point, a lot of people know their anti-air buttons, and you can beat this consistently. And now, regarding what we said earlier, we said that we need to catch the Bison player overextending. So for that to happen, you have to be aware of some key situations that will happen in the match. Typically speaking, I don't like waking up with buttons a lot versus Bison, because most of his Oki is actually legit. But there are a couple of situations where some of the lower Bison players may get greedy and try to go for something fake. And one of the biggest examples is his throw game in general. So let's have here Bison do the typical throw Oki. He will back throw and then he will do a Psycho Axe, right? This is the typical throws that Bison have, and if you try to wake up button, you get crush countered. We all know this, we all seen this. One interesting thing is if you play a character like Colleen, you can maybe able to actually bury this, I believe, yeah. So there is some counterplays here, of course he's gonna meaty, but what I'm talking about mostly is something like this. If the Bison player overextend and he will try to dash forward at you instead of going for his meaty. And the thing is, in situation like this, the Bison dash is reactable. So I see him disappear, and now I wake up buttons, and like now we're in, right? So this is one of the key situations. Now I'll show you another one that also happens quite a lot. And that is after his forward throw in the corner. So his forward throw in the corner is the same deal. He will have to manually time a Psycho Axe. Okay? But many Bison players also will get greedy and try to go for the dash. And a dash there is of course negative. So again, this is a situation where you can walk up bottom. The entire idea behind what we're saying is you want to wait for an opening. You want to wait for a situation that you know Bison is overextending in, and then use that to knock him down and pressure him at that point. I will show you another one, and that is from my experience that happens typically a lot. And that is when Bison have V-trigger, more often than not they will go for his dashes after blocking a Psycho Axe, because they know you at his plus, you're gonna respect his normals and all of that. So of course there are many situations, but generally speaking I just wanted to show you some of the more popular examples and some of the easier that you can exploit, because a lot of the lower level Bison players will actually overextend with that stuff. Now we are going to talk about something that is very important to know. So you got Bison to the corner, you caught him overextending, now you have the knockdown, you have the advantage, and something like this happen. And it is gonna happen, like regardless of what you do, he does this and now he's out. This is something that you have to very much expect. And you have to be ready for it and ready to stop it. So when you have Bison cornered, I don't recommend going for a lot of offense with big gaps. So if you go for something like that, you're basically giving him a free escape. something with big gap on it, like the fireball, the normal to the heavy fireball. That stuff is a no-no. You can go for something that's a true block string like that, or like into light fireball. He tried to jump, you get the anti-air. That's fine. Or maybe in like an empty cancel, so you can still get the anti-air if he jumped in at you. That stuff is really fine, but I don't recommend actually going for a lot of big gaps in your offense, because this attack will go through big gaps. And if your stuff is not like frame tight, like something like that, he will be able to escape, and it's just unfortunate. Like, and if you had committed to the attack, you might even get punished. So if I had done something like the heavy fireball, I'm blocking in time because, you know, G is ridiculous. But you know what I mean. Something like that stuff happens all the time. So you have to know how to anti-air this. So maybe something like the V skill. A lot of the anti-air normals will anti-air it, but if you're too late, you might trade. Something like that might happen. Jumping back air to air is not bad. It's gonna depend on your character, but generally speaking, it's not a bad idea to jump back and anti-air it. So it's just something that you have to be ready for. When you get Bison to the corner, don't leave big gap on your offense. Don't overextend. Like, you caught him for overextending, so don't do the same mistakes that he did. And now we are going to talk about the part that I think most people struggle against when they fight versus Bison. And that is how to handle his pressure when he's up close and is pressuring you. Many people will tell you, just block bro, just block, you know, and all of that, but just block doesn't work when you're fighting versus Bison. You have to be able to... First, you have to understand how his pressure works, and secondly, you have to be able to have a good amount of pattern recognition. Let's have Bison do a sequence like... let's have him do a sequence like the one we had here. This sequence. Now, the idea is, when you see Bison doing a sequence like that, and that is something that Bison players will do in general, it's because Bison is always like plus on block. They will try to steal turns or go for not really legitimate frame traps. So there are a ton of interruptions here that you could do. So let me show you one by one. So first of all, the Psycho Axe to the crouching medium punch, that can be interrupted with a 4-framer. Something like Ryu standing light kick. So that is the very first point of interruption. That's the very first fake one. The second is the crouching medium to the crouching medium. So what you can do is that is, again, you can interrupt with your like lights. You can interrupt with something like this. So now we have 2 points of interruption. The third is between the crouching medium and the standing heavy. Again, this is another point of interruption. You can interrupt that because this is a very big gap. The crouching medium is only +1 on block, whereas the heavy is like 10 frame startup. So he's like going for a 9 frame gaps, frame traps. So what you can do is maybe do something like your medium punch here. And that will interrupt him every single time. And then you have something like the heavy punch to the heavy blast. And there is a gap there. If you have a fireball invincible move, like a Ryu's Dragon Punch, you will be able to beat this every single time. And that is the thing about Bison. You have to recognize the patterns that are going on, because I will say, and I'm sorry if I say this, the 98% of Bison players have very obvious patterns when they're offensing. And this is nothing to knock against the Bison players. I think just the nature of the character makes them autopilot, right? The 2% are the ones who will not autopilot and they will keep mixing it up. And these are the ones who are really, really hard to beat. But the most, or the vast majority of the Bison players will have some gaps. Speaking of the blast to the blast gap thing, there is a little bit of an inherent mix-up with the blast, and that is because it has 3 versions, and only the heavy have a gap. Let's here have Bison do, I believe this is the light. The light is -2 on block, so when Bison does the light, and you have to recognize them from the head stop and the voice line, because they are different. So when Bison does the light, this is -2, and I try to mash, but I can't get anything out. This is a true block string. But when Bison does it, okay, he lost his turn. Now I get to attack and do whatever I want. Now it's my turn, right? So that is the light. The heavy have a gap, so when he does the heavy punch, this is a medium, I believe. Let's go for the heavy first. The heavy have a gap, and you can interrupt this gap. Any move with like moves like Kami X drill, Jury's EX flip kick, anything with fireball invincibility will go through here. You can even bury it if you want, and then do stuff. There is a sizable gap here that is punishable. Now, Bison players do this because this is plus on block. So this is the thing that will keep him, will keep his turn going. And this is what I was talking about when I said like he will overextend. Of course, the mix-up here is that the medium will punish you if you try to interrupt. So if we had Bison do the medium, this I try to bury, I can't. Let's try to heavy punch DB. I can't, I keep getting hit. But of course you can EX DB there, right? So the whole thing about Bison is, honestly, and how you defend against him, is pattern recognition. Just look closely at what he's doing, and you will see the gaps, and more likely than not, they are going to repeat the block string. And now finally I wanted to give you guys some advice on how to deal with Bison and his V-trigger. And first we're gonna start with V-trigger 1, and one important thing that you kinda need to know is that when he activates from a light scissors, he's actually negative. As you can see, he's -2. So something like that, you can actually take your turn here and interrupt. So we can do something like this maybe. And you get the interruption and you get your turn. So when Bison activates from light scissors, that's when you should interrupt. And that's why you will see a lot often nowadays is Bison player activating from the Inferno, because that is the legit thing. So that is one thing I wanted to let you guys know. Another is his V-trigger 2. And the thing is, the common activation for the V-trigger 2 is a slide activate, right? So one thing that you need to know about the slide activate is that he's not in command grab range after it. So when you block it, he can command grab you after. What will happen most likely, and this is what you need to keep an eye for, is Bison players will activate and then try to maybe dash and command grab you. So this is a key situation that you have to be aware of. When they activate for me here, or they activate against me here, I always look for the dash. They're gonna dash or they're gonna try to Psycho X. So this is a situation where if you can eyeball it, you can react to it. Another popular activation is from the target combo, and then he can throw you after it. So this one is a little bit dangerous. But what I like to do is, don't wait for the activation and then V-reversal. He will be able to block this. What you need to do now is, as soon as you see the medium punch, you know he's going to go for that, so I just activate to push him out of it. Then maybe he will try to get in again, he will get hasty, he will try to go for the slide, and now I don't have to worry about the command grab. One final note, and this is, again, sorry, back to V-trigger 1, but it's pretty significant, I will say. His EX head stomp in the V-trigger 1 is actually a fully invincible attack. So when Bison is in V-trigger 1, let's have that. This also show you some training mode functionality. So okay, let's turn off the recording. Okay, so this is what Bison is doing now. Let's have him look everything up. When Bison knocked down, his the head stomp, that is fully invincible. That will go through all of your attacks. But the one thing that you need to know is that you can anti-air this. So you can always do something like this. I'll try to go for the medium punch and I will get the anti-air. Many Bison players will try to cheese you with that. So when you knock down Bison or whatever and he's in V-trigger 1, expect that this will happen on wake up. So you can always do your meaty and buffer to your anti-air, like option selected, and you'll still be able to anti-air him if he doesn't. So maybe something like that. This wasn't the V-trigger one. As you can see, you can always deal with this. If you block it, if you happen to block this attack, it's -2, so you take your turn. So that was all that we had on Bison today. There is honestly even more stuff about Bison, but I don't want this video to get any longer than this. I know and I understand that it's really difficult. A lot of people have issues with Bison, so I try to give you as much advice as I could in this matchup. And yeah, that's it for today's video. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, or share. It all really helps. Let me know which characters you are struggling against, and I will try my best to cover them in the future episode. Thank you for watching and stay safe.